Hi, this is Dr. Weichel, School Superintendent of Unit 5 District, and I wanted to, share with you the district's plans moving forward as we start the second quarter of the school year. And before I get into the details of the plan, I really want to say thank you to our families, to our students, and to our staff. I know everyone is working very hard to make sure that our students are learning right now. And I really do appreciate what everyone's doing for your children and our students to make sure that they continue to receive an education. So with that, let's just dive right in. So in August, when I made the announcement that we would be starting the year in a remote format, I said that by October 1st that we would be making an announcement and a decision about the second quarter of the school year. And so, that announcement was made on August 6th. On August 24th, students actually started their first day of learning this school year. And, shortly after that, district administration began meeting with union leadership really over the course of several weeks to not only talk about the metrics that we would use moving forward to determine, do we return to in-person learning? Do we stay where we are? Do we move backward? How does that look and work? And then also to discuss, so when we do return to in-person learning, because that's always a goal, when we return to in-person learning, how does that work and how does it look to keep students and staff both safe? And so you'll kind of see, we met on the 4th, the 9th, the 16th. The 16th that night was also a board meeting. And then we met again the 18th. And so we've continued to meet sometimes in person, sometimes virtually, but we've continued to have open dialogue, really looking at those next steps. So I'm sure some of you are probably thinking, well, what's different? What's changed from August to now? Because in August, the metrics were naturally different than what they are now. So I kind of want to just bullet some of those points for you. So in the letter I sent out in August, I recognized the challenge of social distancing pre-K through 12, particularly in pre-K through 5 grades, because initially in that first plan, we had planned to have all pre-K through 5th graders back every day. And what's changed is our plan right now calls for all students pre-K through 12 to follow a hybrid schedule, therefore reducing the number of students and individuals in the building at one time. Realistically, right now, to follow IDPH and CDC guidelines and to really have social distancing in place, we just need to reduce the number of students in the building. And being a district as large as we are, we need to do that in a hybrid model. The second challenge we faced in August was the ability to adequately staff in-person and online instruction. So you might recall from the first plan, we had planned to use Edmentum in grades 6 through 12. So that would have meant that we would have had to have had our in-person instructors as well as those instructors to monitor the Edmentum curriculum and support students. And we're not going to use Edmentum at this point. That was the third challenge, though. We had a lot of students and families who struggled with the idea because they felt like it was safest for them to stay home. But they were taking upper level foreign language, AP, dual credit, honors courses, and many of those courses were not available in Edmentum. So, what's changed is at this time, all of our students will receive instruction from Unit 5 teachers using Unit 5 curriculum. And then lastly, we had noted that a number of districts across the US had to close within the first week of opening. And it really did cause us to pause, to step back and see, can districts open safely? And so since then, we have seen a number of districts, including those locally and across Central Illinois, who have been able to open without widespread outbreaks. Now, I will say, Unit 5, we are the 15th largest district in the state of Illinois. And so the way that we go about opening and doing things, it has to look different than maybe some of our neighboring school districts or other districts across the state. Because out of the huge state we're in and all the districts, we're 15th in size. And so it definitely causes us to be a little more creative in how we can meet those needs. So we talked about that there will be four stages to reopening our schools, one being fully remote, and that would be comparable to where we were in the spring, where no one's attending school. The second option would be remote for most, which is really what we're in now, where most of our students are receiving their instruction in a remote format with a few specialized programs, being in person. Stage 3 is what we're hoping to move into soon, which would be hybrid. And that's where students are going to receive in-person instruction 2 days a week while learning remotely the other 3 days. And parents, of course, are still going to have the opportunity to choose to keep their students fully remote in this model. And lastly, where we're fully back in person 5 days a week, all students. So, at the board meeting, I heard several people say, they want the district to be transparent and we want to know how you're making decisions. Well, we had already, at the district level and with union leadership, we had already been in the process of talking about what are the metrics that we're going to use. And, you may wonder well, why can't they just pull metrics from somewhere else? Well, the fact is the state of Illinois has not come out and said, these are the metrics that Illinois schools should use and that all Illinois schools should use, nor did they say, out of these metrics that you might consider using, here are the guidelines that you should follow. So it was really left up to districts. And while, some districts, their communities may not want that, I recognize that ours, they do want that, you want that. And so here's what we came up with. There are 7 metrics, and we are going to go wherever the preponderance of data is to make our decision as far as what stage we're in. So the Restore Illinois plan, that's set forth by the state of Illinois. The other 6 metrics that you see on the left-hand side, those all have come from the Illinois Department of Public Health's website. And I just want to point that out because it's not that Dr. Weichel and a few other people just pulled random metrics out of the air to say, hey, this is what we're going to use. So not only did these metrics come from IDPH's website, so did these numbers. So if you look at the, let's say, 7-day rolling positivity rate, the range of 3% to 8%, those ranges came from IDPH and in some cases the CDC website. So we've broken it down to show, depending on where our local McLean County metrics are, that will indicate what stage we're in. You'll see that a couple of these metrics, such as the number of new cases per 100,000 residents and 7-day rolling positivity rate, those are the same for stage 2 and stage 3. And so as long as we're within that range, we're going to default to stage 3 and count that in that way. Just to, again, be very transparent, here are the metrics and how they're defined. So in the plan, you'll see hyperlinks that will actually take you to the IDPH website, so you can see these metrics and the definitions for yourself. But I thought it might be helpful just to show you the formula, the mathematical formula of how that metric is calculated, as well as where we in Unit 5 will be taking the metrics from. So IDPH actually updates all of these metrics on a weekly basis, and they update their website every Friday, usually around noontime, but that's for the previous week, not the current week we're in. So you'll see the first 4 metrics listed on this chart, we're actually going to calculate from the McLean County website using the IDPH formula. And then the last 2 metrics listed, we'll just pull from IDPH. So special considerations, obviously we can't be in stage 3 1 week and maybe there's a spike in cases. And if we just looked at 1 week, then maybe it would show, oh gosh, we should be in stage 2. That's not realistic. It's not good practice for our students, families, or staff. So before we move from one stage to another, the district's going to need to be in the previous stage for a minimum of 10 consecutive instructional days. Of course, any of these metrics or guidance could change as new information comes about from the CDC, IDPH, McLean County Health Department, or the Illinois State Board of Education. Of course, we need to be able to staff, the students who are returning in person and learning. So we need to make sure that we have availability of staff and subs to cover the needs of our kids. And, I feel like I have to put out a call for if you're interested and able in being a sub, please go to Unit 5's website, sign up to be a sub. We're looking for all types of subs. Subs for teachers, EOPs, paraprofessionals, school nurses, custodians. We need all types of subs, subs in food service. And so even if you think, gosh, I can only sub a couple days a week, wonderful, we'll take it. Sign up to be a sub. Right now we have plenty of cleaning products, disinfectant and PPE, but should there be a shortage in the supply chain, that would impact us being able to keep students in school. At the individual classroom, grade level, or even building, if we have 15% or more of students in a particular class, grade level, or building who test positive for COVID in a short period of time, then we may have to pause in-person instruction for a short time just so we can go through proper cleaning protocol, contact tracing, and before we would resume in-person learning. So with that, I really want to stress parents and guardians, you have to have a backup plan. Your child could potentially test positive with COVID, or they could be a close contact and be required to be in quarantine for 14 days. And with that, I'm going to ask, I know you may not like it, you may not agree with it, but please don't argue with us because we won't budge on that. If your child's been identified as a close contact, they have to quarantine for 14 days. We'll continue to work with the local health department, follow the district cleaning protocol, and our air quality action plan. So the instructional options, families can choose to keep their students 100% full remote, or they can choose to have their student come back in our hybrid model. And both models will be taught by a Unit 5 teacher using Unit 5 curriculum. The difference is for in-person learning, students will attend in person in that hybrid model 2 days a week. Students will be divided by the family's last name, so families are on the same schedule. And in families where maybe the children have different last names, we will make that determination by the oldest child in school by what their last name is. So students will go to school on Monday, Thursday, and then the other group will go to school on Tuesday, Friday, with everyone being remote on Wednesdays. So we will be looking to phase in this hybrid approach. And the reason being, no plan is perfect. And none of us have lived through, nor have we taught and worked in a pandemic. And so we, have a plan that we feel like looks really solid on paper. However, we also know once we get these little bodies in our building, whether they're elementary bodies or high school bodies, we may have to make some, tweaks and minor changes to our plan as far as how we do things and the processes we use. So assuming our metrics remain stable and or improve or keep us in that stage 3, our pre-K, kindergarten through 2nd grade, 6th grade, 9th grade, and some of our special services will return October 19th. All of the other grades will return October 26th. So hybrid, it really is that combination of in-person learning with some online instruction. And so when students are in person, we are going to maximize and be very intentional with what they learn and what they do from the teacher on those in-person days. So again, the students will attend 2 days a week. Every Wednesday will be remote for everyone, where every student receives 100 minutes of synchronous or live instruction. And I'll touch on that in just a minute here. So pre-K, I just kind of wanted to share with you, this is what the pre-K plan will look like. This is all detailed on the paper plan and the document that you have access to. For our elementary students, I do want to point out elementary students are getting out at 2:10 instead of 2:30. And that's because of teachers will need to take their students out by class for recess versus normally a large group would go out. And that's partly because we just need to make sure that we limit the number of students out on the playground at one time to keep everyone safe. Our junior high and high schools will follow their traditional schedule. And our special education programs. Some of our special education programs, such as the ones listed here on the screen, they will actually attend in person 4 days a week. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So stage two, I just want to point out, let's say that we're able to return to a hybrid model, and that's stage three. And for whatever reason, maybe there's an increase in COVID cases where it would require us to move back to stage two. I want to just point out all of the programs on this slide, they would continue to come in person. So, it's a lot of our special service programs, as well as some other courses, primarily at the junior high and high school, such as Behind the Wheel, BACC, some of our English learner programs. So I just thought it might be helpful for you as parents to see some of the signage that we already have up in our buildings. So reminding students to stay 6 feet apart in English and in Spanish. The picture on the right, you'll see the little feet and then the dots. Those are visual cues for where students should stand, so that way they are 6 feet apart. Reminding everyone that a face mask is required when in the building and on school grounds. And then over on the right, a picture of what an elementary cafeteria might look like. So the dot is that visual cue of where the student's bottom needs to sit. And in between the lines is where a student's tray would need to be. So we'll continue to have signage throughout the hallway to direct students as far as the flow of traffic, as well as on our stairwells to indicate, which stairwell you should only go up and which ones you should go down. So the full remote instruction, we are going to assume everyone's coming back on the hybrid model unless families tell us otherwise. And the way that you'll do that is you'll opt in to full remote instruction. So I do want to point out a couple of highlights. It will look different. Unfortunately, at the pre-K through 5 level, it's more likely than not that students will not be with their current teacher. And that's because we need our teachers to do the in-person learning. And at this point, we're only going to commit a dedicated number of teachers to instructing fully remote until we know how many families are choosing the full remote option. But that experience will look very similar to what students are experiencing right now at the elementary level. At the 6 through 12 level, students are going to continue to follow their course schedule with the same teachers that they have. And those teachers will let students know when they need to log in for either live instruction or if they'll be receiving their instruction through a video lesson, and then how to communicate with questions or assistance. So, that's really a very short snapshot of, what we're looking to do. A couple of things I do want to remind families, we are limiting visitors to the building. When we return to the hybrid model, it won't look like it did in January and February. We will not be having Halloween parties or fall festivals. Parent-teacher conferences will still be done in a remote manner, a virtual manner, and not the way that I think any of us would choose that. However, that's our reality right now. So I encourage you to read through the plan, and if you have questions, definitely reach out to your child's building administrator. And I hope everyone stays safe and healthy. And again, thank you so much for all that you're doing for our students.